Online Pedagogies and Classroom Dialogue, an Orbis presentation in partnership with the University of Melbourne. Many teachers make effective use of digital software and tools in their classrooms, but any move to a more enduring form of online delivery requires an important rethinking of pedagogy. One of the particular challenges faced by teachers is that of conducting classroom dialogue through online tools. Here we've synthesised a range of academic journals, interviews, and online commentary to present some key principles and practices that you can consider as you plan to teach both the content and literacy of your discipline area. We begin with a general overview of online pedagogies, pointing you to several resources that may assist you and outlining key principles of effective online teaching and learning. In addition to the advice provided to you by the South Australian Department for Education, the Office of the E-Safety Commissioner provides excellent resources to support you in ensuring online safety. AITSL has also produced an excellent resource for school leaders and teachers that details research and best practice for online teaching and learning. In thinking about online learning interactions, there are multiple dimensions to consider. Online learning is not simply an interaction between student and teacher, but also between student and content and students and their peers. We posit that classroom dialogue can be facilitated in a way that engages each of these dimensions of interaction. Our synthesis of a range of research into effective online teaching and learning is presented here. Research suggests that teachers break learning into smaller chunks, establish clear expectations about online learning and the purpose of online activities, establish high expectations for each learner, provide prompt and ongoing feedback, create differentiated tasks, and include wherever possible opportunities for interaction through video or chat. Research also recommends thinking creatively and strategically about assessment, recording short instructional videos rather than streaming them, using your existing teaching resources adapted for online use, and giving very explicit and clear instructions to students as to how to participate. Teachers should also feel reassured that you can repeat sessions and activities if you feel students need this. You might also find the key principles of effective online learning, outlined by Anderson and McCormick, useful in guiding your work. Central to online pedagogy are the decisions that teachers make about modes of delivery. Effective online teaching and learning can be delivered in synchronous or asynchronous modes or a blend of both. Some examples are presented here. So when we think about asynchronous learning, we're thinking about the kind of student-driven activities that students can do in their own time. When we think about synchronous learning, we're thinking about the more teacher-led live instructional times. According to this framework, the majority of heavy lifting is done by asynchronous activities, leaving synchronous learning times as spaces to prioritise quality dialogue. There are a diverse and sometimes overwhelming range of online tools available to teachers. We suggest that you design these tools into your teaching and learning. We provide an example of a Year 7 mathematics class to demonstrate this kind of designing in. Some suggested tools for each stage of the learning design process are included in a downloadable guide. Now we turn our focus to classroom dialogue in online or blended settings. And it's worth pausing here to discuss what we mean by dialogue. Dialogue can be conducted in spoken form, such as Zoom meetings and voice recordings, or in written form through discussion forums and chat. When we refer to dialogue, discussion, and talk here, we're directing your thinking toward any type of interaction that you will design into your teaching. Researcher Bill Peltz, an expert in online learning, argues that dialogue and discussion should be at the centre of online pedagogy. He argues that one of the advantages of online learning is that students have time to organise their thoughts without the pressure of immediacy. Another advantage is that students have the opportunity to discuss a topic over an extended period of time. Peltz says, Teachers have to establish the expectation that any written response or post to a question or task needs to teach something to the learning community. Students need to think about what their main point is and summarize that into a succinct written response. This kind of expectation adds a pedagogical dimension to a discussion forum, which could otherwise be lost, especially given that students are used to replying rather than composing a considered response. Pelt's emphasis on students teaching something to each other seems especially important. In the absence of face-to-face dialogue, a well-considered written response puts students in the role of teacher and elevates the discussion to a higher level. Peltz points out that any form of online discussion should proceed according to established practices, just as they would in a face-to-face classroom setting. Both contexts require established practices such as turn-taking, respectful language, protocols around how to disagree, and strategies for building on each other's responses. Peltz advises that teachers keep reading tasks or presentations of content short, followed by a discussion of some kind. This keeps students motivated to continue to engage with content. In these discussions, students can also ask reflective questions of themselves about what they've just learned. Because Peltz sees students using dialogue as a means of teaching others, he also advocates that teachers give feedback on students' facilitation and participation in these discussions. The teacher's role is important here. Throughout discussions, the teacher contributes to add information, correct any misunderstandings or misconceptions, and to extend students' understanding of content. Turning to the work of Pauline Jones and adapting this for online learning contexts, we see that discussions serve various purposes. Talk is both a product of learning and part of the process of learning. In terms of using talk as a product, teachers could invite students to use technology such as Flipgrid to present a retelling of a novel, a performance of a key piece of dialogue from a play, or an analysis of a historical source. Talk as process refers to talk used as a cognitive tool through which one learns and consolidates learning. There are many online contexts that exist for teachers and students to engage in thinking together online, and some examples are included here. Research on the relationship between talk and learning has been undertaken by Neil Mercer and his colleagues at the University of Cambridge. In an online learning environment, students can engage in what Mercer and others refer to as cumulative talk. This can be important for brainstorming and collating ideas using tools such as Answer Garden or Padlet. For more critical and constructive engagement with ideas, Mercer and others refer to exploratory talk, whereby students actively listen to each other's thinking and build on ideas to complete a shared task or goal. Tools such as Parley or Kialo and many others allow this kind of rich exchange of ideas. You can learn more about the role of exploratory talk in students' learning by visiting the website Thinking Together by the University of Cambridge. Many of the dialogic strategies that you would use in face-to-face contexts can be adapted for use online. To begin with, we emphasize the need for talk to be explicitly taught. It's important to teach students how to talk with each other and how to engage in meaningful dialogue. Often students need to be taught the language of negotiation or how to enter a discussion and contribute in a productive and collaborative way. Strategies such as the use of sentence starters provide students with the opening to a response, and these often use complex phrases that students can adopt through use and practice. Teachers can also make use of what Michaels and O'Connor refer to as talk moves. Talk moves involve decisions to extend the dialogue through contingent responses. So, for example, a student might provide an interesting response, and the teacher decides to re-voice this response as a clarification or acknowledgement of what the student said. A student might provide a response that conveys content knowledge, but the teacher might decide to reformulate this response, this time using more appropriate academic language. Thus, teachers' contributions to discussion are conscious moves that extend and develop students' understanding. A downloadable matrix of some talk moves is available for your reference. When setting up online discussions, the role of open-ended questions is key. Open-ended questions can invite deeper and more philosophical thinking, and some examples include, when should mobile phones be allowed in classrooms? Or in what circumstances is war justified? Building on the work of Skidmore, we outline some of the clear benefits of open-ended questions. Open-ended questions do not involve evaluating the correctness of students' responses, but create collective enterprise. They encourage extended answers, promote higher order thinking, and often involve further questions rather than answers. They can be less intimidating than closed questions and can promote creativity. Here we share some examples of routines that can help structure online dialogue. Aidan Chambers' strategy, the 4 kinds of sayings, is most often used when students are discussing texts or issues, but could also be used to help students discuss a reading prompt or analyze a film excerpt, as just a few examples. In the 4 kinds of sayings, students share their initial responses. They then share with a partner. Then they work together to develop a joint understanding before stating the new perspective. 3 sharings is another strategy that provides cues for students' contributions. Through this routine, students develop responses to express enthusiasm, confusion, and also connections that they can see to prior knowledge. The Visible Thinking Routines website details a range of protocols that can be used to structure dialogue, both online and in blended mode. To summarize, these general principles for online dialogue include considering e-safety, utilizing small chunks of content before bringing the class together for dialogue, considering both asynchronous and synchronous modes of dialogue, explicitly teaching the rules of engagement, using open-ended questions as discussion prompts, explicitly teaching a routine for interaction, providing feedback on these interactions, explicitly teaching talk moves and providing students with sentence starters, and using your own contributions to the talk to model how students can interact. These key points are available in a downloadable planning guide to support you in developing classroom dialogue online. In addition, some further reading is available, including 10 Principles of Successful E-Learning by Anderson and McCormick, and an accessible reading by Edwards Groves that shows examples from classroom practice where teachers use different talk moves in the dialogue to deepen students' learning. If you would like to learn more about the utilization of discussion forums in both online and blended learning settings, we've also included a journal article by Marjorieson that shows students learning literacy through a range of digital tools.